The cloud. You hear that term all the time, right? It's how you're probably watching this right now. It's where your photos live. It's where your favorite shows stream from. But what is it? I mean, really? Well, today, we're going to demystify it. We're going to pull back the curtain on the tech that pretty much runs our entire digital world. So let's just cut to the chase. Is this whole cloud thing, is it just a slick marketing term? You know, a buzzword that tech companies came up with to sell us something that sounds way more complicated than it is? Well, the honest answer, it's kind of both. The term, the cloud, is absolutely marketing genius. But the technology behind it, oh, that is absolutely real and, frankly, revolutionary. So let's break down what's actually happening behind the scenes. All right, first things first, let's get one thing straight right away. If you remember only one thing from all this, let it be this. The cloud is not some magical, fluffy thing floating in the sky. It's not abstract. It's just someone else's computer. Seriously, that's the big secret. Okay, for the slightly more, textbook definition, cloud computing is just using a whole network of super powerful computers, we call them servers, that live somewhere else on the internet. Instead of that app or that file being on your machine, it's running on a beast of a computer in a huge data center, and you're just accessing it through your web browser or an app. So you don't just order one cloud, please. It's not a one-size-fits-all deal. You actually interact with it in different ways through what we call surface models. And honestly, the best way to get your head around this is to think of it like a restaurant menu. You get to decide exactly how much of the work you want to do yourself. And on that menu, there are three main courses. You've probably seen the acronyms floating around: SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. That's software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Sounds like a mouthful, I know, but we're about to make it super simple. And how are we going to do that? With what is, no joke, maybe the best analogy in all of tech. Get ready for pizza as a service. Stick with me here, because this really makes everything click. Okay, check it out. Let's start with IaaS, or infrastructure as a service. This is the make pizza from scratch option. The cloud company gives you the kitchen, the oven, the flour, all the raw ingredients. In the tech world, that means the servers and storage, but you have to do all the cooking. You manage the operating system, the apps, everything. Next up is PaaS, platform as a service. This is like buying a take-and-bake pizza. The provider has already made the dough and put on the toppings. You just pop it in your oven. In tech terms, they manage the servers, and you just focus on building your app. And finally, the one we all use every single day, SaaS, software as a service. This is just ordering a pizza delivered hot and ready. You don't do anything but eat. Think Netflix or Gmail. You don't manage anything, you just use the software. And you can see here, they literally stack on top of each other. IaaS is the foundation, the raw hardware. PaaS builds on top of that, giving developers a platform. And SaaS is the final product right at the top, the thing that we as users actually click on. Okay, so now we get what the cloud is and the different ways we can order from it. But how? How does the magic trick actually work? I mean, how can one giant data center serve millions of different people all at once? Well, there's a secret ingredient, a core piece of technology that makes the whole thing possible. Yeah, that's really the big question, isn't it? If we're all just using someone else's computer, how does my stuff stay separate from your stuff? How does one giant physical server pretend to be hundreds of smaller, separate servers for all its different customers? The answer, the real magic here, is a technology called virtualization. And what it does is pretty amazing. It's basically software that takes one massive, powerful physical server and digitally carves it up into lots of smaller, totally isolated virtual machines. Each one of these virtual machines, or VMs, has no idea the others exist. It thinks it's its own dedicated computer. But really, they're all just sharing slices of the same hardware pie. And the special software that does all this carving and separating, it's called a hypervisor. You can think of it like a super efficient traffic cop for the computer's resources. It's the hypervisor's job to create all those virtual machines and then direct traffic, making sure each one gets the exact amount of processing power and memory it needs, without ever bumping into its neighbors. It's the key to making one machine act like 100 different machines. So why bother with all this complexity? Because the payoff is huge. For companies, it means they don't have to buy a new physical server for every single task. That saves a ton of money. They can spin up a new virtual server in minutes, not weeks. It lets them use every last drop of power from their hardware, which is way more efficient and even greener. Honestly, without virtualization, the cloud as we know it just wouldn't be possible. It's the engine that makes the whole thing go. Okay, so we're talking about putting all our important stuff on someone else's computer. And that should immediately make you think of one word: security, right? If everyone is sharing the same physical hardware, going back to our pizza analogy, if we're all using the same kitchen, how do you guarantee nobody messes with your ingredients? And look, the threats are absolutely real. We're talking about data breaches, hackers finding a weak spot, somebody leaving a digital door unlocked. And here's the tricky part. Since you're sharing that underlying hardware, a vulnerability for the customer next door could, in theory, become a problem for you. So the stakes are high. So how do the cloud giants fight back? They use what's called a defense in-depth strategy. It's not just one wall, it's layers and layers of security. First, they are constantly, obsessively scanning for any weaknesses. Then, they lock down the data itself. This is huge. Your data is encrypted, both when it's just sitting there and when it's being sent across the internet. They also build their applications to be secure from the ground up. And finally, they have round-the-clock monitoring systems that are always watching for anything suspicious, ready to respond in an instant. It's a constant, 24/7 battle. All right, we've gone through what the cloud is, how it works, and how they try to keep it all safe. But let's bring this all back to you. Why should you care about any of this techie stuff? What does it actually mean for your day-to-day life? It matters because the cloud isn't some abstract thing for big corporations anymore. It's literally in your pocket. It's in your living room. It's the invisible engine that streams your movies, backs up your family photos without you even thinking about it, and lets you work on a document with someone on the other side of the planet. To understand the cloud is to understand the plumbing of the modern world. It's that fundamental. And that brings us to one last really big question to leave you with. As more and more of our lives, our economies, and our societies move onto these massive centralized platforms, who gets to make the rules? As a handful of companies hold more and more of our digital world in their hands, who's really in charge? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.